Let's now move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Benjamin Hoffman, who writes, "Hey, John, Sonic did pretty decent at the box office when it came out, but it was hardly a blockbuster." That's fair. "I remember a lot of people saying it would have been much bigger if it had opened in China. Well, it just did open in China, and it only managed to come in 6th place at the box office behind films like Dolittle, which made almost 3 times as much, and the Inception re-release. Does this end the debate that Sonic would have been, quote-unquote, huge if it had opened in China?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, you know, the Chinese theaters opened up again. They've been open for a little bit. Last week they opened. Dolittle actually opened. This was Dolittle's second weekend open. Last weekend it opened at number 1 spot, made about $4 million or something like that. They had about 60% of the theaters open, limited capacity, just trying to get the ball rolling and all that kind of stuff. So Dolittle opened. Now, yes, Sonic, which is a movie that ended up being much better than I thought it had any business being. I ended up quite enjoying Sonic, as a matter of fact. I had fun with it. I didn't think the movie was great, but I'd be lying if I didn't tell you I had some fun watching Sonic, and that me and my wife have both gotten in and watched it at home again. Like we even actually, Anne really likes the film. Anne really likes Sonic. And you know what? It didn't do bad considering the budget for it and everything, and it made a little bit of money. I think it made around $400 million, if I'm not mistaken. Let me bring it up here. I didn't have this number handy. Let me look up the Sonic box office. Sonic made, okay, I stand corrected. $306 million, not $400. $306 million Sonic the Hedgehog made at the worldwide box office. Not great, but pretty decent, and certainly enough to at least be somewhat profitable. Now, you're right. The questions then started coming in when you would talk about Sonic making that much money at the box office. A lot of people would jump and say, well, it didn't open in China. And if it had done in China, it would have made another 150, 200 million, whatever. And one of the things I've always kind of said is you got to remember, most movies don't open in China. Like, remember, China only allows so many North American movies to open in China per year. There's a limited amount that they allow to open in China per year. So most films don't get a Chinese release. So there's that. But I also caution people, and I said at the time, I think you got to be careful assuming that if Sonic opened in China, just automatically that would have meant another $200 million added to its box office. Case in point, it did open up. Now listen, obviously China is just getting their box office and their theaters open again. Obviously, everybody's dealing with the repercussions of the pandemic and all that kind of stuff. We obviously do not assume that we're going to see the box office numbers that it would have got if it opened in January before the pandemic hit. Obviously not. But we can measure a little bit depending on where the film falls in relation to how other films are doing. Now, these are numbers according to Variety that wrote in that this past weekend, the number 1 film at the box office this weekend in China was Enigma of Arrival. That's a Chinese film that made $3.34 million. Dolittle, that terrible Robert Downey Jr. film, that is in its second weekend in China, made 3.6. The Interstellar re-release made 2.84. Shepherd Without a Shepherd, odd name for a thing, which is another Chinese film, which was a re-release at $2.2 million. A Chinese animated film called Mr. Meow made $1.42 million, and Sonic, in its opening weekend in China, made $1.27 million. Now, just a side note here, Hollywood Reporter is saying that the top 2 films were actually flipped. The Hollywood Reporter is saying Dolittle actually beat out Enigma of Arrival, whereas Variety is saying Enigma of Arrival. So there could be some discrepancy there at the top 2 spots, but both of the outlets say that Sonic came out in 6th place. I think, you know, in asking the question, do I think this settles that issue about whether or not Sonic would have been like some massive hit in China had it opened at the same time? I think that settles that. No, it wasn't going to be a massive Chinese hit. If it's opening now and falling behind an Interstellar re-release and falling almost 3 times behind Dolittle in its second weekend, now, would it have made more than $1.24 million if it had opened in January? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Maybe 10 times as much if it had opened in January as opposed to that. Absolutely would have made significantly more. But I think the numbers kind of prove out that Sonic wasn't going to be a massive hit. And if it had opened in China, instead of 300 million, it would have made 500 million worldwide. I think this puts that to bed. You got to remember, there are a couple of other asterisks you got to put there. For example, Rob, this is a movie that opened in North America ages ago, right? So you got to assume that there's a number of people in China that maybe would have gone to see it and have pirated it already. I mean, a lot of people in the world have probably pirated this already. So you got to take that into account as well. But the same can then be said of Dolittle. The same can be said of Dolittle, and yet it's still outpaced almost 3-1 Sonic. The same can be said of Interstellar, where you don't even need to pirate Interstellar. Everybody's got Interstellar, and yet more people went out to go see it than this. Again, this doesn't take away from the fact that I think Sonic the Hedgehog, this movie, ended up being better than I thought it would be, and it's still an enjoyable film. And at the end of the day, it was still profitable, and that's all that matters. And they're moving forward. They're going to make a sequel. They've already greenlit it, so I don't think it's a big surprise that it hasn't done well in China. I do think it puts that debate to bed, but I think at the end of the day, it's okay, because it's not like Sonic needed China to go from a money loser to a money maker.
Right.
Not a ton, but it made money. And I don't think there's any reason that the folks at the studio shouldn't guess that if we make another one, it might even make more money, because the word of mouth on Sonic's been pretty good. It deservedly so. Anyway, Rob, you see these. Are you surprised by these numbers? And what do you think some of these like asterisks are?
No, I mean, look, in the case of Sonic, it's already out on home video. Like you said, it's something people could see if they want to. And I think it was a day and date film. I think it would have done much better in China. But like you said, it already earned out. It was a modest hit, certainly successful. And this isn't surprising at all. I was surprised at how much Interstellar made in China this weekend. I mean,
Me too.
You look at that and you're like, wow, that's impressive. And I think the real story is, when I was growing up, John, they used to re-release movies in theaters. I mean, they did with Star Wars, the Disney movies, and that kind of went away. But it's really interesting to see, like, during this pandemic, that when these theaters open, like, I'm like, dude, I would go back to the movie theater and watch Inception again. Like, if I could see that shit in IMAX, I'd do it. Because I didn't see it in IMAX before. And I like the idea that people are going back to movie theaters, and China proves it. I mean, they're playing old movies and people are going to see them. And I find that really interesting. I would have thought Sonic, actually, to be honest, would have done a little better in China, but I think it's because a lot of people who really wanted to see it have already seen it. But the numbers weren't that surprising to me.
I agree. And I think, and you're right, it is surprising to see how many people are going back out to see Interstellar. I'm curious to see how it's going to do with its North American re-release, if they actually hit it. I think they will re-release it in whichever.
I might have to go. I mean, if I can go see it in IMAX with that Dune trailer, come on.
We may have to take a road trip. We may have to literally maybe drive to Nevada or something to go see it to a theater that's open.
Because I don't think they're going to be playing it here.
I agree. I mean, I hope they can, but I agree. I don't think they're going to be playing it in California, but maybe they will somewhere else. Question is for you guys. What do you make of these numbers coming out of China? You're like, hey, yeah, it didn't do all that great in China. No big deal. It already made its nut. Or maybe you're thinking, wow, I really thought it would have done better in China. Whichever. What do you guys think about this? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys.